Hi everybody and welcome to the video and live streaming show. I'm John Lacey and I'm joined as always by Sam Proof. Today on the show, we've got a very special guest that we'll introduce you to in a moment, but we're talking all about virtual facilitation and making it fun and engaging today with some of the tools and technologies that certainly Sam and I really enjoy using, and a few that are probably quite new to us as well. But let us know in the chat where you happen to be watching from, and I'm forever trying to make this thing happen, so indulge me. If you're watching live, go hashtag Team Live, and if you're watching the replay later on, hashtag Team Replay. But Sam, how has your week been? I suspect it's been another busy one.
Yeah, it's a cat-filled week this time around. We had two fosters that we had pulled from separate shelters, and then miraculously last week a cat just wandered into our backyard that was a complete stray, and then so that cat's over here. And then a few days ago, Amanda was like, I don't know what I did, but I just said I would take a mom and her 4 babies. So now I can't even do math. It's 10 cats, it's 100 cats. I don't know what it is. But yeah, there's cats in like all the rooms. There's one literally right opposite my camera. And yeah, it's been a busy week. How's everything with you,
Nice.
John?
Everything's going pretty well with me. Had a bit of a milestone actually. Finally hit 300 subscribers on YouTube.
That's awesome.
Which I know doesn't probably sound like a massive number to a lot of people, but it's been a lot of work over a number of years. And the thing that sort of blew my mind is I've had over 50 subscribers in the last 28 days. So it's starting to pick up in a way that it hasn't for the longest time. And I guess in some ways I want to say thank you to anybody who happens to be subscribed to the Learn live streaming channel over on YouTube. But also, if you're out there doing the thing, like just try to have some patience, because it will take off eventually if you commit to it and try to be consistent. So thank you very much to Tatiana Teachers, who's watching over on YouTube. We'll just check in with the chats before we introduce our guest, although a lot of these comments are actually from our guests. So let's just pop over to that, and I've got to press a few buttons to make this all happen. But here we go. Here's our guest. It's Saeed from Germany, who is also known as the Facilitainer. Hello and welcome to the show.
Hey Sam, hey John, thanks for the invitation. It's weird and awkward to be on the other side, but I try to also be a guest in the chat and do my usual thing. Multitasking today. Thanks a lot for having me.
Hashtag team guest, as it were. I love that. Okay, so we're going to be talking all about the sort of the virtual facilitation stuff that you've been doing, and a little bit of OBS and some other tools today. But maybe I know first of all you're a cat owner and a cat lover, so you'll instantly bond with Sam, and I know you've been a great supporter of the show in the past. So I sort of joked last week that you're usually the most vocal person in our chat, so I was a little scared that if we had you on the show that nobody would be commenting. But I'm glad to see that's not the case. But maybe can you just introduce yourself a little bit and sort of tell us about the kinds of things that you help people do?
Yeah, sure, I will try at least. So I'm Said, I'm from Germany, and just if you wondered what's wrong with his face, it's 1 a.m. And I've tried to stay awake, so please forgive me. And yeah, I call myself a facilitator, as you already said, because I like puns and I like to have fun, also when it comes to work. So when facilitating workshops, for example, or in any meeting, I always try to have something entertaining, because just because it's work, it doesn't have to be like dull and boring and I don't know what. So I'm always having entertainment factors, and I help others to create these kind of setups and these kind of meetings and these kind of workshops, trainings, especially virtually. So if you do anything that's remote over Zoom or any other tool, video conferencing tool, so I'm the guy you can talk to, who can help you to bring a little bit of professional entertainment and engagement into your meetings and gatherings. So that's my passion and my profession.
Absolutely. And I must admit, Tatiana, has a question, and I think I've kind of ruined the surprise a little bit because I had something going on OBS we'll get to later. But if you're a cat person, if you're a dog person, hold that thought because we will definitely revisit that in a second. But I guess you know, on LinkedIn, I see a lot of people in this facilitation space, and I it's not something that I'm really entrenched in. So I'm kind of curious, like, what kind of things are you facilitating? Are they training sessions, meetings? What does that actually look like?
Yeah, so usually it's more of a mixture of a workshop. So when you work together to create some outcome and trainings. So that's what I do personally, but facilitation in general is just, if you want to keep it simple, it's like workshopping, for example, right? So that would be something that you understand as facilitating and just guiding people to get to an outcome. And whatever that may be, can be organizing a party for your children or for your cat's birthday or whatever. This would be facilitating just an event. And I personally, I do more on the training side because I want to support other facilitators and other trainers to get better in what they do. So just empowering others to do their job better because I'm just a little geek who knows all the tools and who has just fun doing this. And why not supporting others to who maybe don't know all the little tips and tricks and hacks how to do such things. So yeah, but facilitating itself is more about workshopping and working on an outcome. But I do more of trainings, and it always depends. And from time to time, just having little events I do or little workshops about, I don't know, tools, basically like Miro or Butter or any other tool I can come up with, or OBS Studio, Stream Deck, whatever it is, I'm in.
Nice. So I guess one thing I do wonder about, like in terms of making these things fun, and you know, I think we've all experienced the pain of being in a session with somebody who has 30,000 words on a PowerPoint slide and just reads them out completely monotone. And I can see that you bring a lot of fun and interactivity into these sessions, but I am kind of curious what role you think humor plays in the workforce, because I kind of feel like my co-workers would tell you I'm incredibly funny, but I've got to be honest, a lot of that humor, a lot of that bonding is really built out of what I can only describe as workplace trauma, and it's certainly it's not appropriate for a larger audience. So I guess, like, I'm curious, like, how do you bring that into those settings?
I'm not saying you have to tell jokes in a meeting, so that's totally not the point. So being like funny on purpose, my point is just we are still humans, and just because something happens in a Zoom call, we don't have to. I want to quote Sam Proof here: wear a monocle and a bow tie, right? So while trying to be overly serious, we're still humans. We can still laugh. We still have emotions somehow, and we still like to have fun with each other. But just because somebody is sharing PowerPoint, we don't just switch off our emotions and be kind of a robot. It's more about being authentic, although it is work. And I think we all know if you do something that while you are having fun, I think starting something, it doesn't matter what it is, with passion and with fun, the outcome is always better. The time flies. It doesn't feel like work, and that's the point. So just rather than being funny, I don't know if there's somebody on stage who, or in a Zoom call, who tries to have something like a stand-up comedy show. No, that's not why I'm here, right? But if you throw in a pun from time to time, or if you can laugh about yourself, if you misspell something, or I don't know, that's what I'm talking about. To just being more of humorous in general, and capable of having fun and enjoying the moment. And there are ways you can support this. I mean, sometimes we are like little kids. Sometimes, right? When there's a little playful element somewhere, gamification. It doesn't matter what it is. Oh, this is cool. Let me join. And especially with all this Zoom fatigue nowadays, if you have like 20 Zoom meetings a day, or I don't know, 10 hours in a Zoom marathon, I think you really appreciate when it's a little bit different, when it's not sharing slides, when there is somebody who is not just talking down to you or having a monologue for 60 minutes straight. So yeah.
Sure, that makes total sense. And I must admit, I get the feeling for Sam, it's probably, I don't know if you've ever had like a corporate job in
yeah.
that sense, have you?
Oh yeah. I mean, even the startups, like it's still a corporate job, but you know, there was a lot less Zoom before the whole COVID thing, and then when that happened, we were already, you know, a digital company, so in a lot of ways, it was, you know, more free range. Like, just, we trust you, you're doing your own thing, so we didn't have a whole lot of Zooms coming in, but yeah, like they tried early on to do like entire company meetings, because we would do these weekly meetings, right? And they would go through, and it was like a 40-minute meeting when it was real life, and then they put that onto Zoom, and boy, is that the most just boring ass. Yeah, maybe we did that for a lot longer than I remember, but I checked out of those immediately.
Sure, and I guess I'd be really curious to hear Tatiana's thoughts on this too. But as an introvert who feels very time poor, I kind of want people to get to their point really, really quickly.
Yeah.
And one of the most excruciating things for me is these sort of forced bonding activities, or, you know, what color crayon would you be? And all these things that they just make me roll my eyes to the point where I'm like something out of The Exorcist. So I'm curious, like, we're going to talk about engagement in more detail later on, but I guess how do you think about engagement generally, Saeed?
So engagement in general is a great thing. But I totally agree if it's something, first of all, you had like a million times, or you can just, they're called icebreakers, right? So it's like in the play, see my cats are fighting. It's in the playbook of facilitation. Yeah, you start with some kind of icebreaker, and there are the classical ones, something like, yeah, you have to tell like 2 truths and 1 lie about yourself, and the rest has to guess. And then you are under pressure to, oh my God, I have to think about 3 things. And one of them has to be a lie. And my life is so boring. I don't know 2 things I want to share with random people, and so on. So yeah, this can be very cringe, you know, when I'm forced to, have this artificial bonding with somebody. As you said, I don't like it either. But on the other hand, I also think, what's the purpose of it? If it has a purpose. So if you say, okay, we will do which crayon are you? And they say, yeah, I'm always yellow. Then moving on to the next activity, what's the point about the crayon thing, right? But if it's about, I don't know, the whole workshop is about colors and creativity, yeah, probably, you know, you can build a bridge from this activity to whatever comes next. So is this a segue to something? Or is it just a standalone activity, and then I don't care what your answer is, to be honest. You can be red, green, blue. We will move on to the next slide. Then just leave it. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
But yeah, use it purposeful. And there are people who do this awesome in an awesome way. So they know which activities make sense in which group, and they have it all figured out to, okay, in this workshop, I will choose this activity because at the end it will close a loop to something, right? So it's a whole picture, but yeah, I totally agree about let me look on the list and then, or throw a dart, and then this is the activity we will do today, and have fun and bond, and you have 2 minutes, and you will be in breakout rooms and come back as friends.
And, you know, I guess the other thing is that I really don't enjoy is the breakout rooms. It's like, here, we're going to throw you in a room with 3 or 4 other complete strangers and talk about yourselves. It's like, yes, I never want to do that, but thank you.
Yeah, we had this thing that was like a virtual coffee, and it was like some Slack plugin that would randomly pair you up with some other person in the company. And I was like, okay, I think I did it once, and I was like, I don't need to do that again because I have nothing to talk about with Bill from accounting. Like, we're good. And God forbid somebody from management is the random person.
Right. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the video and live streaming show. We're going to come back and talk a little bit more about one of our favorite tools, OBS Studio, in just a moment.
we are constantly training our cats every interaction that we have with them. So when Johan would get on my counter before, this is 10 years ago, before I was the cat expert that I am now, Johan would jump on the counter. What was the first thing I did? I'd say his name, Johan. He loves that. That's a reward for him. He said, you just said my name. I would go over to him and I'd talk to him and be like, you can't be on the counter. Johan loves when I talk to him. Ding, that's another reward for Johan. I'd pick him up and put him on the ground, but I didn't want him to think I was mad at him. So when I'd pick him up very nicely and kiss him on the head and say, I love you, but you can't be here. I'd put him on the ground. I had just done 3 things that rewarded him for being on the counter. So I was encouraging him to continue doing that.
And that's a segment from Sam's podcast, Just Kidding Around, which you can learn more about over at cuteavalanche.com. Today we're talking to Saeed, the Facilitainer, about how we can make these sessions more engaging, some of the tech and tools that we can use, and really just make sure that we keep our audience engaged and participating in whatever we happen to be doing in those virtual spaces. Just want to check in with the chat before we continue. Business Growth Ready over on YouTube says using humor and feeling can help. However, I'm more like Spock. Illogical, just give me the data. And Tatiana says, I like to make sure the activities tie into the content. I also make sure I'm creating activities that are for introverts and extroverts. I love that. Yes. That's great. And CG is saying hello. So great to have your company today, CG. And also Business Growth Ready is noting that Tatiana was recently with Katie on a Ecamm Live session, which was awesome to see. Okay, so, and it's a bit of a running joke that we have feelings about Ecamm Live, but there's nothing wrong with Ecamm Live. I just don't own a Mac. But what I do own is a PC, and one of my favorite tools is OBS Studio, and that was one of the main reasons we wanted to get Saeed on the show so we could geek out about this a little bit. And I think maybe, I don't know how you want to do this, Saeed, but I think we might actually come back to this question from Tatiana. So Tatiana asked if I'm a dog person or a cat person.
Yeah, this is a great question and a great segue. Thanks, Tatiana. So sure, I've prepared some things, and I don't know, just as a heads up, so I'm also seeing what's happening in the stream of John on YouTube and on LinkedIn. So if anybody's on LinkedIn or on YouTube, I can see what you are doing. And I have a little activity which could be kind of an icebreaker, a little warm up, but using OBS Studio and using it in a different way than just sharing slides and asking generic prompts. Let's try it out if it works, and you can play along in one of the 2 chats, Sam and John, if you like. Okay, whenever you are ready, would be nice if I would be on full screen so you can see everything, and then I would just. Okay, first of all, as you can see, I also, this is just a very plain camera I have, but usually I don't look like this. Not my face, I mean more my camera view. Usually I look something like this. So even when I am hosting something in a Zoom call or in Buttercall or whichever tool you would like to use, this is my view, so having it a little bit branded. However, this was not the question. The question is, I have 3 questions for you, and please use the chats and use emojis. That's are the instructions. Use emojis in the chat. And my question is, let's start with the first one. Is this the first time you joined John and Sam's show? Please give me a thumbs up emoji, not a reaction in the chat. So if this is not if you already joined someday, give me a thumbs up. And if this is the first time you are joining live, give me a thumbs down. And then hopefully some magical things should happen. But because of the delay, I have to fill up the time. Oh, we can see it in my background. I can see a lot of thumbs up. I can see 1 thumbs down. So we have 1 new viewer in the audience, but the rest already joined in the past. Awesome. Okay.
So that new viewer is actually Sam, so I think he may have misunderstood the question.
I've never been in
Yeah,
John's stream during the thing, so
That is true.
he's right. He's right. Technically, he's right. He never watched your stream. Why should he? This is okay. But I was first thinking, okay, maybe he didn't get it or I didn't explain it correctly. But okay, let's move on to the second question. And my second question is, have you ever used a virtual camera in a meeting, not in a live stream, but in a meeting like in Zoom or elsewhere? If you have, please look for a camera icon and type it in the chat. And if you never haven't and you're a little bit old school, then use a VHS cassette. Just look for cassette or VHS or something similar, and you can see your reactions in the background. So I could see them in the chat if I like, but I like visuals. And also, that's what I meant before. I don't mean it in a negative way, but we become childlike, not childish. We become childlike when it gets to something that's new, that maybe you haven't used in this way. You don't have to talk to me. I wouldn't hear you in the first place, but you don't have to talk to me. I just see your reactions. And now I know, okay, as far as I can see, each and every one of you in the audience has already used a virtual camera in a tool like Zoom, right? And now the most important question. I mean, we are here on a live stream with Sam Proof, and let's figure it out. Are you Team Cat? Then look for one of the many cat icons in the chat of your choice. And if you are Team Dog, then look for a dog icon in the chat. I can see some poodles. I can see, I cannot spot a cat yet, but I blame it on the delay. There we are. I see some tigers. I see some cats. And I would say Team Cat 1. Of course, I know John always says that Sam is streaming to everything that is connected to the internet, but I'm only capturing 2 chats. So if you do something that's like this, either live on a live stream or in a Zoom call, you would have more reactions, and you could use different prompts, of course. But as an introvert, I am also an introvert. I don't have to talk to you. That's a really cool thing. So I ask you something, and then I get reactions back. That's totally nice. This will not change the outcome of today's session or anything, but now we had a little icebreaker, and we know who is Team Cat, who is Team Dog, who is a first-time viewer, and who ever used a virtual camera in one of his or her meetings. So there's that. So
cool. That's awesome. What's the back end of that? Like what makes that emote wall happen?
Right. So first of all, this is OBS Studio I'm using. So I know Ecamm hate. It also works in Ecamm, everything I will be explaining, but I just don't have the budget for what comes with it, a whole Mac, right? So that's the only point why I'm not using it. I am using Social Stream Ninja, which is a free plugin you can use in Chrome. You already talked about it in past episodes. Google Social Stream Ninja, and there is Steve, I always butcher his last name, who does a great job with this tool. And then it just captures chats from various, I think it's maybe 30 or 40 different tools and applications it captures.
Yeah, pretty much anything that can pop out its chat, it seems to be able to pick up. So,
right. I think so the main ones, Twitch is there, Facebook is there, it's YouTube, it's LinkedIn. So that I think it's Instagram, I guess TikTok also. So the big ones are all there. I'm sorry. And also, and this is what I want to talk about, also tools like Zoom. Tools like, I think MS Teams is also there, and so on and so on. So the big ones are also there, and it's an overlay, right? It looks for emojis, and then you can see they are still flying. So if you add anything to the chat without me asking about your opinion, they will still float through my room. So my whole point about this is, I know you are the video and live streaming show and not the facilitation and workshop show, right? But my point is, where is the difference? If I'm in a Zoom meeting and I'm presenting something, I think there's the line between this and streaming somewhere is very thin. You have an audience, you have a story to tell, or you have content to deliver, you have a chat, and you have a camera feature, and you have a microphone. The only difference probably if you are in a meeting like in Zoom is people can talk back, so they can unmute themselves, and you can have a real conversation if you like. But I think that's maybe the only difference there is. And of course you can collaborate and so on, but I mean, just for presentation or getting your message out there, it's just a different approach of streaming. My video goes to my audience somehow. And there is a special reason why people like live streams. So I like to join your stream, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are also others, but be honest, Sam, would you join like a Zoom meeting? It doesn't matter what it is. Right? If there's, oh, here's a free Zoom meeting, I will join it. Why should I? I mean,
right.
I mean, it doesn't feel right. But if you have these elements that are stream-like, that people are familiar with, oh, there is interaction, or I can, without talking, I can maybe interact with the host, for example, and there are other features you can use. Probably this whole Zoom meeting feels more fun, more engaging. Maybe you actually want to be there instead of I have to be there again. And when you use a tool, go ahead.
I think whenever I talk to people about live streaming versus just doing like a YouTube video, I make the point that this whole thing is interactive. This whole thing is a social thing, right? So if I am just sort of here lecturing to you and I'm not really taking in any information from the chat, from the viewers, like there's really no point in me doing that live. And I think a lot of people approach Zoom sort of in that way where it's like, I'm just doing a presentation, but taking this facilitation knowledge and really applying the tenets of live streaming to a Zoom, I think is a huge step that any corporation should really be looking at.
That's true. I would even go a step back. Well, we know what a virtual camera is, right?
Yeah.
And we shouldn't assume everybody knows this. People
That's
just join a Zoom call and they turn on their camera and their microphone, and then here we go, business as usual. So many people are surprised when I do my trainings or my workshops or when I do like my content on LinkedIn. How did you add your logo to your camera? This is we laugh about it because we do it every day, right? And it's just 2 clicks and then you edit and then it's there. But people don't know that you can have this virtual camera thing that's out there that people use, and they can add stuff to it, that you can improve the quality of how your camera looks. You can, simple things, I always say it in the chat when I'm in the audience, just cropping your camera a little bit, right? So that you don't see your whole kitchen, for example, or that you are centered in the middle, start small, and you don't need a fancy camera for it. Any camera can do it, and you can add improvements on the software side and so on. So just saying, I don't know how old OBS is. I don't know when they started, or virtual camera in general. It was pre-pandemic, way pre-pandemic, and it was a geeky thing streamers used to use. But now it's mainstream, but people don't know. And if you have a meeting with somebody, suddenly pops up something like I don't know. I have. Let me just look for something. I can show something here. So, oh, did that work? I just typed it in the Zoom chat. Where did this come from? And and then there are more. I think there's more attention. I don't know what happens next. Let me watch. Or there are things floating around. Or let me. I will pay patience. I will maybe have more focus on what's happening on the screen rather than reading my emails or being on Facebook or painting my toenails or whatever people do when they have their camera off. So just little things.
Right on. I'm glad you brought that up because we were talking about Social Stream Ninja, and that is one of the other features that Social Stream Ninja is very useful for, which is highlighting the chat. It actually does a few other features. You can do an entire automation queue of chat and stuff like that. You can customize the way that this looks. So if you are representing a brand. It can be brand colors or even change the shape of it, add icons and things like that.
Yes, and I actually
And I
did
realize
that.
no one can see me right now because my camera is
Yeah,
glitching
ghost.
really, really badly. But hopefully, I just wanted to jump in though because the virtual camera, and yes, there is a version of this in Ecamm Live too. So if you've got a Mac, by all means, you can explore that as well. But for me, like I think streaming has this connotation with young people playing games, and it certainly is that. But I think there are lots of opportunities for people who are having meetings, who are having sales calls to, maybe think about the branding that they're actually sharing, whether it's one-to-one or one-to-many, there's all kinds of opportunities, and it's actually not that difficult to get started. So I sort of encourage people to think about that, but I am kind of curious because I know even on a platform like LinkedIn, I know there are certain people that are very, very wary of this software, no matter how many times I try to explain it to them or how easy I try to make the experience. I'm just curious, do you find people have a lot of resistance when you show them this approach?
Sorry, pardon me. I actually do, like I said, I train people who are absolutely beginners. So we start with the installing process, right? So here's where you download it, and so on and so on. It's just intimidating as long as you don't know where to start, right? So I think that's more of the point. And also, what content do you consume? If I watch like Fortnite live streams and I see all these things going on, so, oh my God, this is so much. I will never be able to create all these things, but you don't have to. That's the point. Why do you want to add like 20 layers of animations and changing cameras and so on? My approach is always, the first thing we do is we install the thing. We have one scene which is already there. You don't even need to edit, right? We add a source, which is your camera. The most tricky thing about it is adding your camera. That's, in my opinion, and it's the most important thing. And then once you have done this, I think half of it, you can check this off. Okay, my camera is there. Now I can connect it to Zoom. And you don't see any difference, right? If I use my raw camera or the virtual camera, but I got it running. The second step is, okay, let's crop it a little bit. See, if you're sitting like this, or I don't know, or let's crop it a little bit, let's center ourselves, let's remove all the headspace, and so that we look professional and we can look into the camera and so on, okay? And once people realize, oh, this looks much better, and all I had to do is just hold the Alt key and do this, and then zoom it a little bit, that's it, okay? And I think that's when people get curious, okay, what else is there? Okay, and then I will go through in little steps, incrementally, and now let's add our logo, right? This one, because you are a freelancer, or you are, I don't know, whatever you do, let's brand it, and we add our company logo, or we add whatever it is. And that's where it starts to make sense. Oh, I can drag and drop an image, and then it's there. All I have to do is resize it a little bit. Okay, moving on, let's add a background. Right, so you can see it's my corporate colors. For me, for example, it's just having a wallpaper somewhere, 16 by 9, add it there, lock it. You don't even have to resize it or do anything with it. Done. And after you have the camera, it only takes like minutes to add images. And the rest is, I always compare it to, if you can handle PowerPoint. Of course, it's not the same, right? But you add elements to PowerPoint, you arrange them somehow, you create slides and text and so on. Yeah, it's similar to that. My whole point is, just don't look at what others can do. I also, when I share content, I start with the very, very exciting things like, okay, emote wall in the background. Yeah, because I'm showing off and I'm showcasing things. But that's not what you need to begin with. Start somewhere where you feel comfortable. Do your first 2 Zoom calls, where you just have your camera cropped a little bit, and you have this little logo at the top left that nobody will notice, but you know it's there and you are proud of yourself. And then once you get comfortable with it, next time add a lower third, and then add a second scene where you can switch between lower third, no lower third. So it's just like everything else in life, you don't start with doing everything at once.
Right.
Right. So that's, I think, if you do it like this, do something small, and then be proud of yourself, try it for a week. And I realize, when I do longer trainings, it's one session a week. And I explain to you today, okay, these are the sources you can add, or you can add an image, or you can add a video. Till next week, people have already tried out so many things. Oh, I tried out a video and it pops up, and I have done, I added a QR code, and so they are animated to find out what else is possible once you get the first percentage of it going. So yeah, the resistance is still there with everything. I think every new tool you don't know is so many buttons. Yeah, you only need 3. Plus, select, and then size it a little bit. Start there.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think in some ways, like, you do have to negotiate, like, you have to keep people excited enough about the product. And I love that you're just looking around at the lack of my camera right now. It's hilarious. But I guess you need to encourage people to be excited about the prospect, but not overwhelm them with too much detail. I think that's really important. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to see if I can find another camera. Sam will take over for a little bit. But essentially, I think next, let's talk about the Stream Deck, because I know that's a tool that we all love. And, just some of the other tools that you like to incorporate into your facilitation. So we'll be back in just a moment.
When we wrote the LinkedIn branding book, Michelle Griffin and I, when we wrote that together, we started with mindset. And in that, we came up with almost 28 fears of why people don't want to put themselves out there. And that fear is really real for people and holds them back in so many ways. And introverts and extroverts, and it doesn't matter whether you're a CEO or back at the beginning, it's been really interesting. And we started with it because we figured if you can't get in that right mindset, the rest of it doesn't happen. And, people were like, mindset, branding, how do those two things go together? Well, if you don't have the right mindset, you won't put yourself out there. You won't create content. You won't send someone a direct message. You won't comment. There were so many stepping stones that came after it. And so it's probably the most popular chapter in the whole book that people always comment on. They always can see themselves in some of those fears, and we've all got them. I still have them. I'm worried that people are judging me just like everybody else. But at the same time, like we just said, that whole cliche, as our friends in the US will say, it's all about, why am I doing this? And I have to just keep coming back to, what does it look and feel like for the person on the other side when they have that light bulb moment? Like, that's what I'm doing this stuff for. And if I can keep focused on that, the rest of it will sort itself out. But for others, when you're still trying to figure out what is that thing, it becomes around, what are people thinking, and what are they going to judge me, and what are they going to say about whatever I post? And honestly, no one cares. For as much content as I put out there, I'd be crazy to think that actually, people care about it as much as what I do. They just don't pay that much attention.
And of course, that was John's podcast, Build a Presentation Muscle. And he usually says other stuff here. And so we just talked about our favorite piece of software when it comes to live streaming, which is OBS Studio. So it's only natural that we move on to our favorite piece of tech or hardware, which is, of course, the Stream Deck. We've talked about this in several different shows. I have one of the earlier models of the Stream Deck with about 15 buttons on it. They've made a smaller version, a larger version, a pedal version, and a bunch of other products. How do you use your Stream Deck? What do you do with it? Which one do you have?
Just trying to figure out in which order I should answer. But let's start with which ones do I have. So I have this one, which is the Stream Deck Plus, and I should dedust it someday. But it's the one with the knobs. I think it's the latest model they brought out, and I bought it last year on, public holiday, Black Friday. And then there is this one. I have the 32 button, which I'm actually using to do things for this stream, right? Yeah. And I also, because I teach others, I also have the one on my phone. You can get this one for free with 6 buttons if you are a Mac user. There must be an upside to being a Mac user, or you think for 14 days free trial, or you pay like $3 or so a month, and it's totally worth it. You can pay $3 and then cancel it if you don't like it. It's not even cafe au lait somewhere. You don't get anything for $3 today, right? So, right. And what do I use it for? What don't I use it for? So there are only few things. Let me rephrase this. I just need to detach my my other Stream Deck. There are so many use cases. Again, there's bias. If you have Stream Deck, I mean, it has stream in the name, right? So, oh, this is something for streaming. I'm not a Fortnite player, so why should I use something like this? But again, you don't know what you don't know. Once you know, in my example, there is a plugin for it, or there are workarounds working with hotkeys where you can mute yourself in Zoom very quickly without touching the mouse. So again, very simple use cases, but I think muting yourself somewhere or turning off your camera, we still haven't figured it out. It was 4 years since the pandemic, but still muting yourself in meetings is, I don't know, it doesn't work. Having a button somewhere, that's my point. You have a screen share button. You can do things like, I will do something like this. Yep. So I have Elgato lights. You don't need Elgato lights, but I have them. So I can turn them on and off, or I can increase or decrease the brightness of it. So whenever I start my meeting, I just push the two buttons and both of the lamps go on. So it's not only for things that I do online, also simple things like opening an app. You know, if I want to create just an example, I want opening LinkedIn, for example, and have a button which is just a link to a website I added. It can be any website on the world, and I click it and it opens, or it can be my Notion dashboard if you use something like this, or it can be my Miro board, or it can be, I don't know, Sam Proof's YouTube channel that you have just on hotkey, for example. Right. So just getting away from thinking, okay, I'm not a streamer, and I'm also not, I don't produce videos or anything, or I don't do any fancy things. You just need to know what's possible. And if you scroll through the App Store, I think it is the name of the Elgato store, you will see, there is one for PowerPoint. Okay, next slide, previous slide, for example. There is one for Photoshop or whatever. There is one to turn your U lights on and off. There is one for Spotify, next track, and simple things like increasing my volume for my earphones or my microphone or whatever it is. So there are so many things. Usually there is no limit. And the very, very, very best thing is if the tool that you are using is capable of handling hotkeys, control something to do something. Right? You can add this hotkey to a key to make your life easier. It doesn't matter which tool it is. If you can control Alt 77 and $sign, assign this to a key, and then you can make your life easier. You know, okay, this key does this, and even further. Multi-actions is my favorite thing ever. I can create a chain of things. First, open website so-and-so. Then press Control-N to create a new, whatever it is, instance, or create a new board or whatever. And then Control-S to save it. And then hotkey so-and-so to do something with it. And you can put them in chain. And at the end of the day, it's one button. It will do all the boring tasks that take you a minute just with one button. So make your productivity, make your life easier. And again, even if you're not a live streamer, I think there are more use cases for non-live streamers than for live streamers.
Yeah, for sure. If there's something that you find that you're doing quite often, like repetitively, especially if it's got hotkeys involved, and even if it's like a series of tasks, like you can create Stream Deck routines with multi-functions to do some really awesome things. I used to go through every week. I would do a particular Snapchat show when I was working for Super League, and they're very methodical and organized, and you have it's a collab thing. So they've pulled all these clips, and they have here's the username, the title, the clip, and I was like, so I just go from editing software to spreadsheet to editing software to spreadsheet, and I copy and paste, and I could just make one button that did this whole 10-minute thing and I would just sit there and make sure it worked right. It would take a break, and then I hit the other button that would then shuffle all the gaps, and it's just amazing. And if you want to take it even to the next geeky level, you tie in like auto hotkeys or like a chat bot, and you can do anything you can imagine. Like it's unstoppable.
That's super geeky. I also do this or did this in the past, like auto hotkey, like a macro tool where you can just, I think, program things, right? And the only thing you have to do is assign it to a button and say, start this macro.
Yep.
And then the macro does whatever it does on your PC or wherever you're using it. So this is very convenient. I want to give you one simple example. So because, as John said, not intimidating people, where can I start? And one of the first lessons I do is people, even Stream Deck users, I realize don't know this. There is this, I think it's text. I think it's just called text, right? And you can add something like a snippet I always use, like please follow and like my channel if you are a streamer, or if you are somebody who works in Zoom, it could be whatever the thing is you always type in the Zoom chat. So you can prepare it. Please, these are the instructions for today, or please do this and this, or here is my email address, or share your websites or other things. Have it as a button, and you can even tell it, open Zoom, go to the chat, paste it there, and press enter. And you don't have to copy and paste from a file or have like, all these steps you do and never ask yourself, why am I doing this? Just having a button to add text. So simple, but it saves you minutes each time, and you don't have to prepare it once.
Cool. Tatiana in the chat says, I definitely underutilize my Stream Deck. What are some of your favorite and most used buttons?
You go first. I will be thinking of some.
I mean, it depends on what I'm doing. Like for this show in particular, I have one button. So since we multicast to all of these different platforms, I have a single button that opens the pop-out chats for about 5 different platforms in Chrome. So it just one after another opens up windows. I have another button that records. It hits all my record buttons. So I'm recording in horizontal and vertical in my OBS, and that's just one button that will start it and one button that'll stop it. Same button, it's a toggle. And that's great. For like the Kitten Camp stream, every morning I hit a good morning button, and this thing does like 30 different tasks, including turning off any playlist that may be playing or night vision cameras and switching to the day cameras. It pops a message on screen with a little like animation that goes across, and it drops a message in the chat. It also adds a marker to my Twitch timeline, which a lot of people don't even realize that you can do on Twitch. But it's super helpful if you need to go back and find something. So those are just a handful of my favorites.
So many steps, one button, right?
Yeah.
So that's and for me, there are a lot of things, but one of my favorite thing is I cannot remember the name of the plugin, but I think it's Windows Size or something. Or Windows Sizer. I don't know. I will have to look it up later. But however, what it does is it places a certain window on a certain place on my desktop or on my monitor. I have 2 monitors. And let's say I want my Zoom window always to be in the top left, and then I want my show notes or whatever to be in the middle, and I want my OBS on the right screen exactly in this position, in this size. I open it, and then you can click on it and tell it, okay, capture position and size of this window. And once I click the button, it will open this tool in the exact same place. And if you use multi-actions, you can just have 7 tools with 2 seconds delay in between. Then open Zoom, okay, then open my PowerPoint on the right screen, then open OBS on the bottom left, then open Slack top right, and so on. This usually would take you a long time. Plus, what is more important is you will never get them in the same position. So for me, that's maybe the good thing about having a little bit of OCD. It's a workflow. I always know my Zoom window is at the top left. And I always know my PowerPoint, for example, is at the top right. And I always know my Slack is there and there. So I don't have to align them each time. And if I would join, like, let's say a Zoom meeting or in your case, start a live stream, I press the, pull up all my tools I need in the right position. It will take you literally 20 seconds to open 9 different tools, and you go grab a coffee, come back, and everything is prepared for you, and you can go live. So that's one of my favorite buttons, because it takes so much time to open different tools and align them and having them in the right position. And you memorize where they are, and it makes life easier if you don't have to look for them each time on a different spot. Yeah.
That's awesome. I actually just bought a new monitor for the kitten cam, and every time we have 2 monitors, so every time I turn them off for nighttime, it shuffles all of the windows to the other monitor, and then in the morning I have to drag them overnight. And I hadn't had to do that before, so I'm like, now I have that. Now I know that I can do that. I'm going to do that.
I think it's called something with window sizer or something, and just even a bow rider one, I think it is. So very, very
I think
useful.
that is correct. I should say too, unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to be back on camera today. So Saeed's going to do that joke for the rest of the show, but I do want to jump into the conversation periodically, so hopefully I won't be cutting too many of you off. But I guess the other thing that I love about the Stream Deck, I think Business Growth Ready sort of mentioned about using it within website design for content, is that text option and the ability to include characters that aren't readily available from my keyboard, like copyright and registered trademark and M- and N- and that kind of thing. But even just common text responses. Even in my day job, I swear I've saved probably 5 years of my life by having a button that says "Kind regards, John." They're just little things that you can sort of work with to sort of speed up your processes. But I guess the other thing too that I really enjoy is the OBS integration, specifically the ability to switch scenes. I know it sounds so obvious, but it's so much easier to press a button on a Stream Deck than it is to sort of worry about your keyboard or, and say it's just demonstrating it there beautifully, or even just click it with a mouse. In some ways, if you're doing a solo stream by yourself, you can do the entire production from a Stream Deck if you set up your scenes and sources ahead of time. So, I just wanted to touch on that briefly. We do love the Stream Deck, and I feel like we could talk about it forever. But Saeed, I was just wondering if maybe you could touch upon some of the other tools that you like to use in terms of, I guess, Miro and Butter specifically. Can you tell us about those?
This other two I would have mentioned voluntarily. So there is Butter. If you never heard of Butter, you're missing out. I don't mean the spread, I mean the tool. It's butter.us. And I would say it's something like Zoom, but it's not. It's a video conferencing platform, and it is created, that's their claim, it's created with facilitators in mind. And of course, you have also video and audio, but what you also have is there are a lot of integrations inside of this. So you can have a poll, you can have a word cloud, you can. There's a really nice chat you can use. It has. It's different from the other tools when it comes to reactions, little flashcards that you can use as conversation starters, for example. You don't need to screen share a PowerPoint. You can integrate it into the tool. So it's not screen sharing, it's actually inside of the tool, and so on and so forth. So if you haven't, you can use it for free. So I'm not, full disclosure, I'm not paid by anybody. I just like the tool. Try it out. And again, this is something, if I invite somebody to a Butter meeting instead of a Zoom meeting, it's always, wow, what's that? Because it looks different. It has rounded corners for the cameras, and the background is yellow, and the reactions are super fun to use. And there is no Butter fatigue yet, but we have Zoom fatigue, right? So sometimes just switching the tool, even if it's the same boring meeting or the same content, but switching the tool is changing the wallpaper a little bit, right? So it looks fresh, people are excited, and try to explore all the new features. And of course, again, productivity, because you can prepare everything in advance. And once you start your meeting, the PowerPoint is already there. The Miro board is already attached to the meeting itself, and you've prepared questions for your audience. They're already there. You created a poll. It's already there. For other tools, you have to do things live, or you need plugins, or I don't know, other things. So that's why I like it, especially when you do collaboration and you want people to be active and engaged. So there are a lot of engaging elements.
Does Social Stream Ninja pick up Butter Chat?
That's the only thing that It does not yet, but I know Steve, sorry for butchering up the last name, said you can contact him if there's any tool he doesn't know about. So he will try to figure out how to do. I haven't done it yet because he's always super busy, as it seems. Yeah. But that would be a great thing to add there. And then there is no reason why not using it. But on the other hand, there are so many other tools out of the box. You don't have to be geeky. You don't have to have separate tools. It's just starting the tool. Everything is there out of the box. So if that's the upside. And of course, Miro is one of my favorite favorite tools for collaboration or whiteboard, where people also usually use it to add sticky notes and exchange thoughts. But there are so many more things if you explore the possibilities, if you understand, I can install apps on it. I can install an app for Excel to integrate Excel sheets. I can combine it with Jira, or I can, add a YouTube video that plays live on the board if I want to, or I can do all the other things. But again, then you have to just explore the tool and see there are so many more things than just adding sticky notes. I mean, adding sticky notes to a Miro board is so 2023. You can up your game a little bit, be curious. Oh my God, I get a heart attack each time you speak.
I should say too, I work with some developers and they love themselves a Miro board, and every time it's just post-it notes, and I'm like, do we need to do this every single time we meet? It's a bit tedious, but anyway, I'm a bit technically camera challenged, but Sam recommended I put in an image there, so we'll do that for the rest of the show, but which is going to be ending relatively soon. But we want to thank Saeed for his time today and his insights. He certainly knows some wonderful stuff about how to really use the technology in a really thoughtful and meaningful way. So Saeed, I guess, you've alluded to a few things on social media about things you might be interested in exploring in the future. I think, you've mentioned a podcast, you've spoken about your YouTube channel a little bit. What is in the future for you, do you think?
I think actually, this is one of the rare occasions where I do actually a live stream. So I do more of meetings. So I would like to do more of these, and not only as a guest. I've been guest on some of them, but I want to do more where I'm maybe having an own format on YouTube, which I rarely use, and creating more content for my YouTube channel. I think that's the first priority, because there is so much I could talk about. There are so many things talking about how to use OBS in different ways, or for use cases like facilitation, not only for streaming. So I could fill maybe 5 playlists alone with this topic. Yeah, the podcast is, maybe I'm the only one on the planet who hasn't a podcast yet. I think some people have 2 to 3, right, John? But maybe someday in the future. But I think having more content that's visual would be first on my agenda. And then let's see, one step after the other.
Absolutely,
one step at a time.
I know that you've got this road to facilitating coming up soon. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yes, sure. Thanks a lot for the shameless plug. As I said before, I do trainings and workshops, and I have something upcoming on April 18th, which is next week. It's a 5-week masterclass bootcamp, however, where I train whoever wants to join in how to use OBS Studio, how to use a Stream Deck, and how to use Zoom properly, and how to combine all these 3 and a lot of more tools to become a better facilitator, a better trainer, a better presenter, or even a better streamer if it's that's what you're doing. Because, as I said in the beginning, it doesn't matter if you use them in Zoom or if you use them on YouTube or on Twitch. The tools are the same. So if you're interested in learning more about and it's really beginner friendly, starting from how do I install these, where do I get the Stream Deck, how do I install the apps, what are the basic settings, and then building scenes, building buttons, combining them, getting creative until we have something you can use to host your next meeting.
Awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much. Sorry about the tech issues on my side, but I'm sure it was a great conversation between you and Sam, and I look forward to sort of re-listening to the parts I missed. But thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your continued support of the show more generally. We really do love having you in the chat, and it's great to actually be able to sort of talk to you in this way, especially given how late it is in your part of the world right now. So thank you so much for that. Just hang on the line, and we'll have a chat after the show. But let's just start to wrap things up, Sam. So if people want to learn more about you, Sam, and find your content and on all that good stuff, where can they go for that?
Yeah, head over to samproof.tv. You can scan that, and you'll find all of my socials on the top left there, and join me wherever you social. And if you didn't get enough cats this week, which there was a good amount, you can head over to cuteavalanche.com for our 24/7 kitten cam. There's multiples of them now on Twitch and YouTube's, and yeah, have a great week. And I would ask John to say where you can find him. I don't know if he's going to be able to do his graphics. Oh, yeah, look.
Yes, I mean, the graphics are there. You can head over to johnlacey.com. That's where you can find the podcast and articles. And there are a whole bunch of social media links at the bottom of all those pages, but especially come and find me on YouTube at Learn Live Streaming, and also John Lacey over on LinkedIn. But thank you so much for your company. We've had some great stuff in the chat. Tatiana saying I have great audio coming through. John, so no worries. I should say there was a moment when I came back, I had to restart my whole computer because everything just went to hell. But I tried using another webcam, and it's the bane of my existence that webcams actually have microphones built into some of them, because it immediately defaults to the worst audio imaginable. But anyway, that's a rant for a whole other time. But thank you so much for your company today, and again for your indulgence as we have some tech. Well, I have some tech glitches. But have a great weekend. Have a great week. We'll talk to you again next week. So just remember to subscribe and like wherever you happen to be watching this for more content in the future. And we'll talk to you again soon.
You were due, because last week was my turn. For tech issues.